Hello lovely people, my name is Alethea Thomas. Thank you for coming and watching this video. Today I am going to talk about the books that I plan to read in February, and a little bit behind, but we'll get to that in a second. So I want to just talk about my physical TBR and then also anything that I've also got in digital form. You know, that's pretty much what we're discussing today. If you like that kind of content, if you like bookish content, some kind of cozy content, cozy vlogs, then you are in the right place. Please feel free to subscribe and comment in the comment sections what you guys are reading in the month of February, because I'm really interested in what everyone else is reading. So the month of February is the month of romance, the month of love. My actual TBR only has a couple of books that kind of fit that criteria, and then there probably are a couple of books in here that might be a little bit depressing, it might be a little gut-wrenching, but I think that's really good. I like to kind of have a nice swath of different emotions in my reading material, so I'm actually looking forward to that a lot. So anyway, let's get on to my TBR for the month of February. So I am currently reading, and I am almost done with, Bluebeard by Kurt Vonnegut. This one is really quite good. It is about a gentleman named Rabo Karabekian, who is a painter, but his paintings were destroyed because he used a specific type of paint. Rabo Karabekian, he's writing the book at the age of 71, and he was a modern painter. He was in the, I think it was modern expressionism? Abstract expressionism. So he was an abstract expressionist painter. He was also a character from Slaughterhouse-Five. And this is basically Rabo talking about his life, where he came from, about going to war in World War II, becoming an abstract expressionist, knowing a couple of different painters from that time like Jackson Pollock, and collecting art, and possessing this really massive collection of artwork. Well, he painted his paintings with a particular type of paint called sateen Duralux, and unfortunately his paintings have all been destroyed because the sateen Duralux wasn't chemically sound, and it dissolved. Like, all of his paintings just kind of self-destructed with time. And so hardly any of his paintings exist anymore. He also has a barn that is on his property that he's got something in. And I haven't gotten to the end of it yet, so I don't know what's in the barn yet. But, people assume that he has more artwork in there, like the most expensive art collection in the world is in there, or he has some kind of horrible secret in there. People claim to know what's in there, but he keeps telling them they're wrong. All he tells you at the beginning of the book is that it's larger than a bread box, and it's really impressive, whatever it is. So I'm excited to finish this up. I've only got I think 70 pages left of this before I'm done. And so it's been pretty good so far. I'm going to finish this up. I was supposed to try and get this finished up in the month of January, but I didn't get to it. I'm just kind of note because I think it's cool. Every time I see a Kurt Vonnegut book at the used bookstore, I always pick it up because you never know. And I got this nice hardcover edition of it as well. It's a first edition. It was written in, I think that someone's name is written in here. But definitely not Kurt Vonnegut's name, unfortunately, but it would have been way more expensive then. So anyway, I've got these two different editions here of that. So that is Bluebeard. And then the other book I need to finish up, technically for the month of January, I had scheduled, was After Dark. And I really wanted to read this one during the month of January, maybe February, just because it is a night in Tokyo. And I wanted to read it when it's nighttime, and so I think January and February are good because the evenings are still way longer than the daytime at this point. So I'm looking forward to another Haruki Murakami. Then my actual February TBR that I had planned. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of physical copies of my February books right now. I do have a subscription to Kindle Unlimited, and so I'm kind of hoping that most of what I want to read is on Kindle Unlimited. I haven't actually looked them all up yet. I'm going to do that this coming weekend, just so that I make sure I can get them. And if I can't get them that way, then I'll just try and find an actual physical copy of the books. So The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath was the first one I wanted to read. I've just heard that this is an interesting feminist sort of novel about a woman who's dealing with, I think, her major depression, some sort of mental illness perhaps. I know that after this book was published, not very long after the book was published, Sylvia Plath actually took her own life. So I don't know if that has something to do with the book being published, or, you know, her putting herself into that book and her own feelings around that, but I think it'd be really interesting to dig into that book, read it, and try to understand a little bit more about what Sylvia Plath was going through, perhaps. So The Bell Jar is on the list. Then after that, I also have Stoner, this one by John Williams. Stoner is about a Missouri native who grows up on the farm, and he is expected to continue on the farm work that his parents were doing. And he is sent to college. Well, while he's at college, he actually, you know, falls in love with literature, and he decides he doesn't want to be a farmer, he wants to be a professor of literature. And it follows him through the decisions he has to make, through, I think, his you know, romances, you know, the tough decisions he's had to make, just to follow his personal love of reading and literature. So, you know, I think that those two books, The Bell Jar and Stoner, are going to be kind of maybe crushing and gut-wrenching, and just, you know, just because the love of something that somebody really wants and they can't really have, that might be there. It was going to be kind of interesting to see. So, and also I am a Missouri native, so I feel like I am obligated to read Stoner. So I'm really looking forward to that one. Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. I have gotten started on Mrs. Dalloway. I have been listening to that and reading it through the Kindle Unlimited app, and I think it's hooked up with Audible as well, because I'm listening to everything through Audible. It's been really interesting so far. It is a lot of Mrs. Dalloway. It's just her inner thoughts, her inner experiences, and sometimes the perspectives shift. Like, she will be the mind that you're in for a while, and then at times you will be shifted to another character's perspective who is not Mrs. Dalloway, which I found kind of interesting. And how that story is told. It's about all sorts of things. It's about London society. It's about a woman's place in London society. It is about love. It is about unrequited love. It is just about all kinds of topics. You know, the woman's obligation, the events that surround the thought process of Mrs. Dalloway, the events around this is she's got a party that she is having that evening, and so it's following Mrs. Dalloway from the start of her day, going to pick up the flowers, to coming home and fixing a dress, all the way until, you know, she has to actually give the party in the evening. And it's been kind of interesting so far. It's ramping up. I've gotten to the point where she is at home. She is visiting with an old friend of hers that has come back, who used to be possibly a former love interest of hers, and she's trying to fix the dress that she is going to wear that evening, and she wants to make sure that, oh, you know, you're here, why don't I invite you to my party, so please come to my party tonight. And so he, I guess, is deciding if he's going to go to the party or not. But it's kind of interesting to be in Mrs. Dalloway's mind. She's 51 years old, or 52 years old in the book, and it's just kind of interesting. She feels like she has reached that prime of her life, and things are starting to go downhill, and she's not really a part of the major London society anymore. At least she feels like she's being pushed out of London society a little bit. And I don't know, it's gonna be a really interesting. Sorry, the dog is groaning over there. It's going to be a really interesting book to finish up because I don't know. Is she gonna slowly go mad? Is she gonna go crazy? Is something wild gonna happen at the end? I'm just kind of anticipating. I'm trying to figure out what's going to happen, and I'm not sure what's going to happen. So hopefully that'll be really, a really fulfilling, really interesting ending for me. So we'll see. That was Mrs. Dalloway. Then I will have my actual romance for the month of February, and that is Sense and Sensibility. I think I will just also again read that on Kindle Unlimited. I do have a collection of Jane Austen's 7 of her novels right here. Sense and Sensibility is in here. However, it is a Barnes & Noble edition, so I don't know if it has been abridged or not. I'm not 100% sure on that. Also, it's a very chunky book, and it's a hardcover, so it's sort of difficult to hold and read, where the Kindle's very easy to hold and read, so I think that will be much better on me. And I'm kind of wondering how many pages that one is. It's about 400, looks like. So that'll be kind of a long-ish book for me for the month of February. So those are most of the books that I will be reading in the month of February. My one that I'm really excited to start and to begin, but I am definitely not going to finish this in the month of February. This is going to be another anchor book. It's going to be another book that I'm going to probably be reading for the better part of 3 or 4 months, and that is Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace. I was so happy to get this nice Oxford edition of it, the Oxford World's Classics, and I am so excited to start reading this. I'm thinking I want to do some other research into the war, the Napoleonic Wars, and Russia's part in those Napoleonic Wars, because that's what's going on. Those are the events that are surrounding this, the context of this novel is the Napoleonic Wars. And I think I'd like to learn a little bit more about Russian history itself as I'm reading this. So I think this will be really, really interesting. Some people, this is their favorite book of all time. And I was bent and determined to get started on this after I finished The Count of Monte Cristo, because it's another nice, big, chunky book, and it'll keep me company for a while. And The Count of Monte Cristo was so good that I'm really hoping that this really long book will also be very good as well. I'm going to approach it in the same way that I approached The Count of Monte Cristo. What I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to go ahead and purchase the Audible version of this book. If I can find the Oxford World's Classic Edition on Audible, that would be optimal. And if I have to spend a credit on it, that's totally fine. If I can't find the Oxford, I'm going to try and find an edition that's a very similar translation to this, because nothing is more aggravating than reading something and listening and it's a different translation, because it gets all gobbledygook in my head if I'm doing that. So anyway, I am super duper excited to read this. I may vlog starting to read this and as I go through it. I don't know yet. Let's see. So anyway, I think that's it. What are you barking at? Sorry about that. Something interesting that came up recently was I've had this Kindle Paperwhite, for years now. It's been the same Kindle Paperwhite, and I need to plug it in. It's almost out of battery. It's been the same one I've had for, I want to say 10 years, maybe longer than that. We were rummaging around in boxes and putting things away and, kind of going through just old stuff. And I found my father-in-law's old Kindle, and it is a color Kindle, not a Paperwhite. And so I've been able to use it, and I have no complaints about it. It's a really nice Kindle. It works. It reads well. I can, do more things on this version than I can the Paperwhite. But I do like actually the readability of the Paperwhite is still a little bit better, I think. That's just kind of my opinion on the Kindles, but it is nice to have an extra one to be able to look at maybe pictures if I can on it or something. But anyway, that is the month of February. So I hope that you all have really nice lists of books to read. Let me know what you're reading. I would appreciate it. And I hope that your February is fabulous. Have a good day. Bye.